Hey guys, it's me. It's Mike Taylor for ARC 316. Hey guys, so I got a comment from a couple of you asking for some help with D&D, and that's all good. And this is going to be for assignment 4. So a little cutaway wall section style. I'm not entirely sure how much you guys have done in terms of other things inside of Revit so far in the semester. So what I've done is I've kind of got a idea of what I think you guys can get up to, and it really comes in two parts. The first piece is building like a wholesale section, so like the entire from the foundations all the way up to the top of the building. And then the second piece is a kind of cutaway section. So this is more to do with, how do we actually look at maybe the layers as part of our envelope structure, and a kind of cutaway axonometric view of the overall wall assembly. So I think both are useful. And what I'm going to start with is a kind of intro to what I understand the assignment is, and then step into how I would do it. And of course, this isn't the only way to do it. There are multiple ways of doing it, but I want to make sure we're familiar with a couple of the tools and a couple of the systems that we might use to make this situation happen. So why don't I go ahead and let's get started here. So I am going to show you first the kind of assignment. Hopefully you guys have access to this. If you don't, I'm not sure what to tell you. Like, this came straight from somebody in studio here. So 1 second, let's just share this. And this is the assignment I've got from somebody. So essentially, this is what we're after, right? So for D&D 4, for D&D, for D&D assignment 4, I just want to make sure that we've got some precedent here that we're working towards. And on the left, we've got a little axonometric that we've really taken what's called the section box to, and we've made some modifications to really highlight where the building envelope is showing our insulation, as well as some of our overall structural systems. So this is a pretty good model. We've got, if I zoom in here, if I zoom in here, I can see a little bit of, this pink is really looking to me like where the insulation layer is, kind of comes around and around the building. This yellow looks like a little thermal break all the way down. We've got that insulation line happening, which is good. That's what we should be having with our cutaway here. So additionally, we've also got a lot of stuff modeled here. So we've got the floor plates all modeled, especially we got this little edge beam here. We got some columns, we got the floor itself, we got some more beams on the outside of where our grade meets the building. And then we've got a little solar device here. We've also got solar shading device. And then we've also got a little Juliet balcony, and then a balcony up here, and a little parapet. So that's really the modeling part of this. And then on the right-hand side of the sheet, we have a kind of full wall section of all of those constituent components of how one might build the architectural contract document for this. So, lots of detail, lots of stuff. These are really two parts of the same drawing, right? So one is showing us in 3D what's going on, and one is showing a kind of cutaway of a section cut through the building. There are a couple things that I might say that, with this particular model, we want to be careful of is, things like our column kind of coming through our curtain wall here. You can see it's blasting right through the glass there. Pretty hard to build. But other than that, what I want to get to for you guys is to kind of have an idea of how we might build this inside of Revit. I'm not going to be able to get to all of the content in the time that we've got, but I wanted to give us some ideas and some tools. Firstly, how to get this, right? So how do we get this really start to shine in our buildings? Without a proper model, I'm going to have a little bit of a challenge trying to convey what I'm trying to get to, but I've got an example model from somebody in the class, and we'll see if we can make that model maybe work a little bit for us. I know that if you've done your model using massing, you're going to have a more challenging time getting some of these assemblies right, but the assemblies are really being driven by your wall types, your floor types, your roof types, right? So first things first, why don't we just get a little model fired up here? So I've got, this is the second thing I want to do, but the first thing is, I'm just going to pop open this. So I received this model from somebody last week, just messing around a little bit with some stuff in here in Enscape. Enscape's not for today, but just to try and get us to a little bit of, how would one get to a little 3D view like this? And to be fair, I'm not sure if you guys have covered this yet inside of ARC 316. So it is a tool. I would argue it's a little bit of an advanced tool. Those of you who had me last semester know the section box tool, but if you don't know it, that's cool too. It's used all the time in industry, used all the time in terms of trying to get to drawings like this, or even just trying to get at certain geometries or assemblies inside of our building. It helps with views and this type of thing. So first things first, I'm going to jump into the model that I received. And this is the kind of standard 3D view. So I've got a whole bunch of stuff in here. I'm just going to collapse these first. So why don't I just I'm going to pull up a first floor here. And in fact, I'm just going to jump to my default 3D view. Perfect. And the first thing you might want to do is figure out what's the part of my building that I want to focus on, as part of my little 3D axonometric view here. So really important to understand, is there a part of your building that represents as much as possible of your building envelope? And in this case, I might suggest we really want to kind of capture some of this extension here. We want to capture kind of all the way through the building. So all the way through the building and top to bottom. And this is actually, it's also really going to start to show where you've got masses versus assembly walls and this type of thing. And you'll see what I'm talking about once we start to get into this. So first things first, I'm looking at trying to get a little axle model like this. So let's get into it. So what do? I don't see any tools. I got my little view cube over here. I can kind of pan around or orbit around. It's not a lot of information, right? So I can kind of make my zoom extents. But if we go over here to the left here, inside of our view, make sure you double tap escape. We don't have any tools active. And now we've got crop view, crop region visible, annotation crop, far clip active, scope box, and then section box. So section box is really going to kind of be the thing that drives our little section exercise here. And if we click that button, just click it active here and hit apply, we should see this wonderful little box that has emerged from the depths. So you can kind of hover over it. This is our section box tool. So if I click on this, we've now got the ability to cut our building in kind of 3 dimensions, right? So this is really a way for us to crop the current view that we're in a way to kind of get at a very specific part of the building. So reminder, we're trying to get something like this, just a cutaway section of the overall building. And how do we do that? First thing I might suggest is duplicate the view that you're in. So for us, this is the default 3D view. So I don't want anybody to lose work. So what happens is I've opened up this default 3D view. So the default 3D view, remember, is just this handy dandy default 3D view. Shortcut up here, very top, on the very top taskbar here. And if I just come down to 3D views here inside of my project browser, I'm going to click that open, and you'll see this person has a couple different views. And if I right click on this little 3D, so 3D view is the one that we're in. If I right click on this, I'm actually going to duplicate view. For us, we might as well say with detailing. I don't know everything that's in here, so I'm just going to duplicate with detailing. Click that, same view. So the reason this is important is that default 3D view is really going to be for somebody like me or somebody like you or your partners to use inside of Revit to kind of see their model in a kind of standard default way. So we want to keep that as a default one. And then over here on the left, you can see 3D copy one. I'm going to right click this. I'm going to rename it. We'll call it 3D. Make sure you name it something that makes sense to you. 3D section cutaway. So that if you are working in a team, that your partner knows, oh, don't delete that view. So really important to label things properly. I might even go so far as to say, if you've got a bunch of people working on the same project in the office, oftentimes you'll throw a little acronym, your name, some way to make sure you've got notice to everybody. There are other ways to do this. You guys don't have huge teams. I imagine just a little acronym will do you for now. Anyhow, what it means is if I make changes to this model in terms of the view, so I'm just going to do a quick orbit here. Let's do a quick orbit. Whoops. And so we've changed the view. And now if I jump back to my default 3D view, I still have that. Just so you guys know, the idea here is that we're actually going to try and lock the view so that we don't mess it up once we have it set. So really the idea here is that once you've got this view set, we don't want to touch it. We want to kind of leave it in the view that it is. Unless you do want to touch it, and that's cool too. But we want to kind of get it to a point where we can have it looking like this, get it on a sheet and keep drawing. And remember, because we're modeling in 3D, any changes you make to the model are going to show up reflected inside of this section. Okay. It's a lot for just a section box, I know. So when I did this in class last semester, a couple of you were really upset, really upset with me because you never used it before. So I want to reassure you that when we do use the section box tool, you're not deleting anything. Nothing is disappearing. It's not a magic hat. It's all of the geometry will stay inside the model. All this is doing is think of it like a little MRI. We've got a little MRI and we want to take some sections through the building. Instead of using the section tool, we're using the section box tool. And how it works is I'm going to hover over my little box here, click on the box, and you'll see these little grabs emerge, these little grab buttons, right? Control, grab. And how they work is I'm going to just deselect here. If you've got everything deselected, you should just see the 3D view. Remember, we can just touch this and it'll turn off. Whoops. If I turn it off, it will go away. Tick-tock, it's gone. And then turn it back on. Here we go. So it's on now. If I click on the outside of my box here, I can actually click and drag. So I'm clicking and dragging this element here. And if I drag it just to the left or to the west, click, hold, and then I release. It's going to take a second, but you can see it's starting to cut through in this case, we're cutting through the site plan, right? So if I keep going here, I can cut through my, parts of my building. I have a feeling here that the person's model that I have here, this is all done as a mass. So we're going to see what we can do about this. But we should see a kind of cut through of the whole building. So see if we can keep going here. Aha. There we go. So I have a feeling this little portion here is all done as a mass. And then here we can start to see, I'm going to just do a little orbit here. We can start to see the kind of floor plates, the roof, the walls, the stair core, right? So I know that we're talking about how to generate this image as part of the D&D exercise, but I also think this is really important to see things, just as you're working through your model, it can be really helpful to just model geometry, right? So we've got a little, I can see here that maybe I want those walls to continue, for example, down, for example, so we can make those adjustments, but we'll get to that. So let's keep going here. We've got some other things that we can do. If I want to drag back the other side, I can actually pull it, right? And we're actually just starting to crop the rest of the site out, crop the rest of the building out to really start to represent a smaller portion of a kind of focal point of the building, right? So we want to try to give our drawing some focus, give our drawing an idea of how we might cut through this assembly. And I'm just really kind of eyeballing it here. It's really hard to set this as a value. I don't think I've actually ever done it as a set value. You're kind of just using your eye to see where you want to cut that building section through. Same thing for the front face. So if I cut it, across the street, for instance, we could see we're starting to cut, through the street here. How much of this drawing do I need to show? Maybe a little bit, maybe a lot. In our example, I think we're actually, we're just showing basically at even less than half of what looks like one bay of the building. So, I don't even see a second column here. So makes sense. One bay. And I'm going to pull this back all the way. So if I just start pulling here, we can see, got some of it done. And if I keep pulling, to get very specific, I can even pull it all the way in here. And now we've actually got the back, and I keep going, the back of the kind of egg crate of these rooms here. Cool, right? So I'm gonna try this. We'll pull it forward a little bit. Let's pull it forward a little bit. Try and just capture. I think that it's really important to kind of see these elements. You might want to be showing the balcony condition. What I would say is, as you guys are doing this, you're going to see some of the geometry missing, maybe as part of your models. And what we want to do is maximize how much geometry we're showing. I shouldn't say maximize. I want to say optimize how much geometry we're drawing so that we can see the kind of parts of the building that we want to show. If we jump back to the assignment here, we can see in this case, we've only got 1, 2, 3 stories of the building. I don't know if this is an older project. I know you guys have quite a few stories here. So if you need to go all the way to the roof, totally cool. Keep it how I've got it here. If you don't need to go all the way to the roof, you can actually also drag down the top of the section box here and start to just kind of crank down what we're trying to show. If I pull all the way down here, I have a feeling the person who modeled this, it's modeled as a mass. So it's going to be, it's modeled as a mass. So we're going to have some challenges with that. But what we'll do for now is we'll just leave it outside of the exercise, and I'll leave it as this kind of wonderful added piece here. Okay, pull this across, get it on here. Some alignment issues, we can always fix that. So let's see what's going on here. Oops. Pull that back one. Oh, very good. Okay, so there's something happening. Something happening with that. That's okay. So for now, anyways, just to try and get us through the section box tool, I think it's a really helpful tool for everybody to use. Maybe we don't need to go all the way into the basement. We can pull this up, right? Pull it up all the way. And, how much is shown on the street? We might not even show the whole streetscape. Maybe we pull this up to the sidewalk, maybe a little closer. I like showing the bench. Let's show the bench. Keep the bench in there. Right? Trying to make it as reflective of as much of, pieces of this envelope as we can. I think we've got some challenges here with the mass here, which I will talk about if I can, but I think we'll stick to the kind of standard wall assemblies for now, and then we can touch on the mass stuff in a later video, or perhaps in class with some, if Jason doesn't mind helping out here. So what do we got? We got most of our geometry kind of organized here. What do we really want to see? So how do I set up the view? I can see we've got on the left here, do we need to show these datums? I really think it's up to the person who's created the drawing. Do I need to show those datums? If we want to turn them off, remember we got VG or VV, we can pull up our kind of visibility graphics. So VG is our shortcut. And for us, we're going to turn off the levels, go to the annotation categories, go to levels, turn those off. And now we've kind of got just a simple little geometry piece here. What else we got? Looking pretty good. So you can kind of mess with this as you see fit. However you want to kind of really frame the view here. I can see we've mostly got it. Looks like a little top down, something like this. You know what? It actually looks like this person is actually just tilted down a little bit. You can really pan, orbit, show what you think makes sense. So right now looks like about a 30 degree, maybe a 60 degree axonometric. So we get a little axo going on here. If you do want to turn off the section box, at this point, if I click that, remember, we're going to pull everything back. So now we've got all of our drawing back, and you go, oh my God, I can't believe I lost all my work. Click section box again, and we should return to what? Oh, my mistake. So if you do that, you'll lose everything. So try not to do that. If you turn it off, you will lose this kind of section box. Excuse me. So we want to make sure that when we do we want to keep that on. We want to keep this view how we like it. So we want to kind of keep it exactly the things that we want to see. And then if I do need to eventually go back, maybe I need to make a new one, I'm going to reopen or duplicate that view, but I can always reopen my default view, say for instance. So try not to turn off that section box. You will lose the section. So just keep that in mind. If we don't want to see it, I think there's a way. Let's just do this super quick. Section boxes. So we can turn off the section box in the view. If you really don't want to see that inside of the view while you're working, you're going to go to your visibility graphics. You could turn off the section box itself. And in the annotation categories down here, if you've forgotten that you've done that, you can of course turn it back on. Have I cut this person in half? I have. So let's just try and we'll make sure that their person is remaining. So cool, right? We've got this view, probably reasonable. Next step. What do I have to do? I got to get this drawing onto a sheet, right? So this is the kind of next step here. I don't have any sheets yet in this drawing. So A0 metric, sure, that's fine. I'm gonna come back in here. I'm gonna grab my 3D section cutaway, drag and drop. Let's see what this looks like. Pretty tiny. So I probably can do this at 1:25. Let's see how big this is. A little beefy, but that's okay. Let's see if it's just gonna slide in here. Look at that, wonderful. So go back into make sure we've got our view active. So here, if I right click, remember we activate our view, go under visibility graphics, annotation. I'm gonna turn off my section box here, hit okay. And now what I can do is I can either, how do I wanna do this? I probably wanna move this up just a touch. So I'm just using the kind of nudge keys now, the kind of up and down arrows. If I hold shift, it's going to jump this. If I just do it slowly, I can do it like that. Probably right. Okay, cool. So, and now I'm going to grab my little jam here. It's got all my title in here, pull it across. So now we can rename it to something else because obviously it's on a sheet, so we want to be careful with how we're naming things. Second thing we might want to do is give this a crop. So remember, we can also crop our views. Whoops. Where did you go, crop? Word. Okay. Just gonna pull this over. Crop. Give myself a little view crop. Make sure this is all shaken out properly. Make sure we kind of keep the top there. Now, if I turn on crop view. Okay, perfect. Just want to make sure that wasn't, just turn off the crop region. Something like this, right? Getting pretty close. Maybe we want to rotate it just a touch. And so remember, if we have the view active, we can also hold shift and orbit or pan, right? So actually I'm panning in the view there, but we can orbit in our drawing, right? So if we want to just orbit around, we can make some adjustments. I'm going to deactivate the view. And now we got a nice little cutaway axonometric view in here as a starting point. So there are definitely some other things we got to take care of, like getting some, the second thing we might want to do is either get the section onto here. So maybe we want to see where this section is cut. We're going to try and cut it, where I've cut this section. I encourage you to kind of cut it where you have the most situations happening on your building. Ideally, I would have cut it through our kind of projections here, but the massing makes it a little challenging just right now to make that happen. So I'm going to keep it where it is. So second thing I might want to pull up is, how am I actually cutting through here. So what am I actually going to show? And we'll just show a kind of typical wall section through here. And I'm going to jump back to what would be my floor plan. And let's do that real quick. We'll get, if we can grab a wall section, and I will just do a little, I think it's going to be around, where did I say it was? It's going to be around the entrance, pretty close to the entryway here. Let's grab a section, and we will do it like this. We'll do it like this. Bum, bum, bum. I'm gonna flip it, make sure we're looking the right way. I'm gonna come over here and make sure we're kind of cutting through where I think it's happening. I might jump up to the second or third floor here and make sure we're cutting through one of those windows. Nuts. Okay. Okay. In actual fact, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna actually open up this view. So I'm gonna right click, go to view, and I'm gonna see what we got. Cool. Look how big this building is. So really, this drawing is only supposed to be showing over here. So that's cool. All these are groups. So we got groups all the way up. So however you've built it, that's cool. This looks like this person has done some groups here. We've definitely got some got some fun little extra pieces here. These are from Hanging Plant Residential Project. I would encourage you, rather than using these inside of Revit, it's totally up to you. You might use them in Twinmotion instead. So if I pull this, let's see if we can grab these all the way. And now I'm probably going to change this to 1:25 so I can match the scale. I'm going to make sure that we got fine on. Aha, what are these? These are not anything. These are basic walls with nothing in them. So that's okay. So we'll make some modifications and see if we can fix this up. See what we can do here. What do we got? Got some nice sliding doors for the front. Very nice. And so 1:25. We'll do medium or fine. Got this looking okay. I wonder if I can pull it even further. I'm going to crop it even more. And what we'll do is 1:25. I'm really only showing up to, what did I say? Up to level, I've got level 1. Actually, what does this person have? Let's see if we can turn the annotations back on. Make sure I can see what levels are here. They're outside of the crop range. That's also okay. So it is at level 5. So level 5, we will actually crop our view all the way down to level 5. And let's crop it up here. And I know we also cropped the basement, right? So we're going to drag this crop up. And now I'm going to take this, what's called section 5. We can find that section a couple ways. We can come over to the project browser and open up the sections here. Come to section 5. Again, I'm going to rename this, say wall section, entryway, something like this. And now I can grab that wall section and drag it across and throw it on my sheet. Oh, I'm actually in the active view right now, so I got to make sure I right click, deactivate view, come over here, and we'll grab our wall section, throw it in our drawing. Ta-da! Not bad, right? Not bad. So we're starting to get somewhere, just so you guys can start to see how you might put this drawing all together. What else do we got here? We're going up to the 5th floor, so ground floor to 5th floor. One thing that you'll notice is I'm missing most of my notes. That's okay. You guys will spend tons of time, hopefully, tagging these drawings, making them look the part. I think that what's going to happen is you've probably got a bunch of notes that you can use, and what we're going to do is make sure that you get those notes in there. So what I want to do next, I probably would love to represent this building maybe in a way where we've got some of these assemblies showing up in, a little bit more clear way. So if I was going to understand, this is an old assignment. I'm mixing things now. So this may or may not be the assemblies that you are using in your respective D&D projects. So please don't, copy exactly what I'm doing. Please pay attention to the D&D assignment. This is not a D&D course. This is a Revit course, right? So trying to make sure you guys have the tools that you need to use those Revit courses. But I can see over here, 125 exterior brick, exterior wide the precast, 75 millimeters of board insulation, vapor barrier, dense glass, some studs, smart membrane, service stud cavity. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to build this assembly inside of Revit. I'm going to do that super quick here. So give me a second and I'll do that kind of in real time here with us. So grab this, and now some weirdness here. I don't know exactly what's going on there, but here what we'll do is tile generic. So I think that this is a generic tile that we want on the outside of the building. Totally dope. So we've got a nice little tile finish maybe on the outside of the precast. So the precast, of course, can have other things embedded in it. So sometimes we'll do a brick that's been a thin brick that's been embedded in it. This person's done tile, also possible. Just make sure you've got some two-stage drainage joints because it's important from a building science perspective when we're using perfect barrier systems. So I'm going to just quickly edit this type. Because it's already set up, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to duplicate this wall assembly. Normally, I would say absolutely duplicate the wall assembly, but because it's all over the building, I'm not going to do that. So I'm just going to edit the type here, and I'm going to rename it to tile precast enclosure. Edit. Oops. Man, it's this Revit thing is still doing its thing. Weird things. Edit, and now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to give us a little preview, and so render. So I've got a material here. I'm actually going to just redo this whole thing. Apologies to the person that I know is working really hard on this. I'm just going to redo all this stuff. That's okay. Let's do what's on the inside here. We've got 2 layers staggered. What's inside and outside? Actually, let's start from the outside. So structure, it's a finish, and we're gonna do 125, and it's concrete. So precast concrete versus concrete, one is cast in place and one is cast at a plant. Let's see if we can find some concrete in here. It's probably gonna give me in situ concrete precast. There we go, perfect. 125, and then we've got some insulation in here. So let's make sure we get that. Insulation. We got some rigid in there. Some 75 is pretty thin, but I guess that's okay. It's not structural, so I'm going to make a little note of that. I'll go down. What's next? We got a little membrane in here. Show our membrane layer. Should be 0. That's cool. Insert again. Remember, we do down to make it go in here. So we got some waterproofing on the outside. Careful with spelling, guys. It's the first thing people see. So adhesive. Careful with spelling when you got any of these projects, especially in your portfolio. Just double check everything. It's the first thing people see. Not everybody knows how to draw, but people know how to spell. So you guys are the experts. Got to make sure we're experts in spelling and in drafting. Membrane layer, and then we got some dense glass here. So let's grab some substrates. Whoops. Just gonna do 16. Blam. And then keep going. Insert down. We've got some studs. Got some studs in here. Let's do. Technically, this is a structure. Let's see if it freaks out. Sometimes it doesn't like when you do that. So let's see. We've got some studs. Some metal. Is it metal studs? I assume it's metal studs, guys. It might be wood studs for you guys. I'm not sure. And we got one. So 184, I guess, is one. You guys using 184 studs? Okay, I'll leave that. 184 studs. You can see it start to populate here on the back. I'm going to keep going here. So insert down, and now we've got another membrane. Make sure your membranes are set to 0 here. Insert again, down, and a stud cavity, perfect. So we got, I guess this is, let's see if Revit likes this or not. I'm not sure if it's gonna let me do this. I'm just gonna leave it like this, and let's call this stud. Another 89 millimeter stud layer in here. So you can see this is starting to get it's a pretty beefy wall here. So 89. Total thickness is starting to get up towards 500 here. So let's do insert again, down, 89. And then we've got 2 layers. So 2 layers on the inside of 16 millimeter gypsum. And let's just go ahead and make sure we've got gypsum in here. Oh, GWB. Gypsum. Oh, look at that. Showed up. Gypsum, hit OK. And we'll do another one. So duplicate, blam. Duplicate, looks pretty good. I don't think I missed anything. It's looking the part. If I hit OK, we should. It's going to freak out for a second, but we should see everything update. I hope, provided we don't have any errors. So it's where you cross your fingers. Hope you don't have any errors, and we'll see if the software is going to cooperate or it's going to crash my computer. If it does, we'll have to come back to this, but it's thinking. It's computing. Lots of things are happening. Highlighted walls overlap. Okay, that's okay. We'll hit okay. Come on. Ta-da! Sweet, right? So we've got all of these assemblies this is actually in render view. Be careful with this. It's okay because my computer can handle it. Yours might not. So you can see all of our assemblies now in real time inside of that wall. Oh, I am currently still in my 3D wall section here. So, my 3D wall section, I changed it over to hidden line. I think you guys are going to be doing it in a kind of somewhat rendered view. I think this is a kind of shaded view here. So let's see if I just pull up shaded, something like this. And again, you can start to see, on the right, on the left. On the right, I got a little bit of a, you might end up with some of these artifacts if you're exporting to PDF. But on the left, I'm just happy to see we've got some of these overlaps happening. Right, so we got our precast in front, little insulation layer. There's an AVB in there. Then our little stud walls, right, kind of pick up, I guess there's some structural support we need to have in there for something, I guess for our kind of windows and so forth. And then the inside, we got a little 89 millimeter service run track, so that's cool. Right, so we're starting to get some of these pieces together. I would really love if this was maybe a little bit less totally black. It's really hard to see the kind of constituent components here. This actually looks like a full extrusion. So if I just quickly flip this to hidden line here, you'll see a lot more detail. But just to give us some ideas here about what it might look like. All right, so if I come over here on the right, we can see quite a bit of this stuff going on. Jump back into shaded here. What if we do consistent colors? What does this do? Still all black, really tough to see. Change the textures, still tough. Can I change any of this? Onyx. Let's see if I just change this to something. What happens if I just change? Oh, it's going to change every window. That's okay. So you can see if I change this, the material to something other than completely black, we're going to see just some additional information. I know that, from an aesthetic point of view, it's totally cool, whatever, you guys want to use. I just think from a drafting perspective, it's going to be pretty hard. From a drafting perspective, it's going to end up being pretty hard getting to a kind of compelling little document here. So just a suggestion, if we can, you're going to be it's real. I'm laughing. I shouldn't be laughing. It's really hard to see all of these constituent components here. So there's a couple ways we can get around this, but I might suggest that using all black frames at this point is going to be really tough to see some of this stuff. I don't know what the requirement is from class. You may be able to get away with using instead of all textured, ask the question, can you use the kind of hidden line view? You can certainly see those black frames without all the stuff kind of getting in the way. Anyhow, one thing that we might want to do is just reflecting back on our drawing here. I'm going to zoom out. Zoom out a little bit. Come on. zoom out a little bit. And one thing you can see here is maybe as part of the assignment, we've got some of this is showing up as yellow, right? So how do we show, maybe we've got a little, the pink insulation here. So how might I do that? How would I show pink insulation? So remember that every view we set up inside of Revit is going to have its own visibility graphics. So we can actually change the visibility graphics of the model inside of the view without affecting other views, right? So how might we do that? Trying to think if we can do this. We may not be able to do it how I was thinking of doing it. So we might actually have to do it with an override, and that will affect our review. So we got to be careful here. In this case, if I want to make these pink, I might have to jump back to my shaded view here, cancel my shaded view here. And I can see here that my cutaway view is, we've got a nice little gray on this, but in our actual insulation, we got this gray on black or black on gray. Let's go ahead and see if we can give that a little override here. So if I just pull this over here and, jump into edit here, and let's take a look at the section view of what's happening inside of our rigid here. So let's see if I can actually, yeah, I should be able to do this here. Let's see if we can make this a lovely, lovely little pink here. If I hit OK, let's see what it's going to give me. It's going to give it to me in 3D as well. Exactly. Perfect. Gone, right? So now we got this pink. The pink is there. So if that's part of the exercise, wonderful. So I can't actually change it in the visibility graphics like I was planning. We're going to have to do it as part of a structural override inside of our wall assembly, which is probably fine as long as you remember that inside of your wall sections, you're likely going to be using hidden line. So just make sure you're setting things to hidden line, because these are the only views in these 3D ones. If you set it to shaded, we'll see the pink. So if I just jump back into rigid insulation here, maybe what I can do is get rid of, you know what? I don't want to do this. I was going to say we could make this a solid color, but we don't want to do that. I'm going to hit cancel. Hit OK. And let's just blow this back up. Right? Starting to get our assemblies looking correct, right? So we're going to see on the right, we've got our little wall section, top to bottom. We are seeing this wall beyond, so I leave that to you. Do you want to show this wall beyond, or do you want to just keep it, tighter? So how would we do that? We might be able to, if I jump to a first floor view and just jump back to our wall section here, if I pull, it's going to make this hidden line. If I pull this, so you can see how I can pull this forward, our little section grab here. And now, if I jump back to my wall section entryway, I don't see that wall beyond. I do see the plants, so I don't know why I see the plants there, but we can decide, do we want to show all of the wall section from, do we want to see what's beyond? It's going to undo it, or do we want to show kind of closer up? So I leave it to you, however far you want to show. If I jump back to our A101 drawing here, we've got something showing up, in section. And reminder, if I activate this view, I can actually come down here to my graphic display options. And if I change this to shaded, we're going to see all of that insulation turn pink, right? Voila. Most of us, I imagine, are going to do a hidden line drawing on the right, and we'll do a shaded view on the left. So if I just jump back to the overall assignment, I'm going to zoom out here. Of course, you've got some work to do. You got to, do the overlay of, you got to do the call outs for all of the stuff that's happening. A lot of this is component based. So anything that's going to show up in the left these are all family components. Potentially curtain wall families or window families. We've got definitely a curtain wall family down here. This looks like a curtain wall family for a railing. We've got a window here. And then on the right, I'm going to argue that some of this is generated directly from the family, but definitely some of this is generated using our component-based family stuff, right? So if I was to take a section through the curtain wall, for example, let's see if we've got from the reference model here, we can see we're missing some detail, but we can start to add detail in. I actually think this wall, the wrong way, but definitely some work to do, but hopefully you guys are a little further along. And what you do is, that's really it. I'm gonna stop there. The next video that I'll do is gonna host some information on how we might get to, strictly speaking, a kind of 3D architectural cutaway. So something like this. So I can see some echoes of that inside of the assignment, but I do want to kind of give some focus to how we might do this for common brick and rigid foam, common brick and rigid foam. You guys are doing precast. So how do we build an assembly and kind of get some cutaway from it to kind of show something like this? It's not going to be perfect, but just to kind of show the kind of layers within the assembly of a system, of an enclosure that we're using for D&D. So I hope that's helpful. That's going to be it for me for now. And then the next video, we'll go through what this looks like. So I appreciate everybody's time. If you need any help, shoot me an email. I'll do my best. There's a lot of content here, so hopefully you guys can get through most of it, and then we can, of course, address some additional comments and criticisms as we go through the rest of the assignment. So, as always, nice to chat with you guys, and take a look at the video, the next one, if you've got questions about this kind of cutaway here, so you can see the cutaway happening. And what I'll do is build a second video to kind of showcase how that all works. Talk to you guys. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon. Bye.